All right, I'm going to start this off by apologizing for the gameplay that you're about to watch. I am absolutely trash at Battlefront 2. I'm only kind of decent at the Ewok hunt just because, well, there's an objective, and I'm not talented with the shooter games, but you give me an objective with the shooter game, yeah, I can work with that. But I spent about 2 hours trying to get like a good match that I didn't perform horribly, and it just didn't work out for me. So I just got mollywopped every single match that I went into. It wasn't fun for me, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. So, and it's such a non statement, but it is what it is. If you know, you know. Stupid statements that make sense. Anyways, to kick things off today, am I the a hole for going out with a group of male coworkers? Question mark. I mean, on surface level, it doesn't seem that bad, right? Could just be going out having a good time with the boys, basically. But instead, you're a girl in the boys. Hashtag equality. I am 32-year-old woman. That was not a misread. That's what they said. I am a 32-year-old woman working remotely for a tech company doing software demonstrations. I work directly with three male account executives for my demonstrations. Because of all this, I talk to all three of my account executives every day. Occasionally, we do in-person event where we invite prospective clients and do a short demo for them while they enjoy lunch. I travel up to 5 hours for the events, and usually it makes sense to go up the day before. The account executives that work in my territory travel up as well. Typically, we all get along the day we arrive and hang out until late. Usually, there is at least one other female that attends, but this time I was the only female. My husband thinks it is wildly inappropriate that I went out with three men with no women present. I can understand the apprehension of a guy not wanting their woman to hang out with a whole bunch of guys. I get it. I mean, if it's for business and stuff like that, it shouldn't really be a big deal as long as you guys have like a decent amount of trust and communication. You know what I mean? She works with three men? Harlot. I will say though, wildly inappropriate is a bit of an overstatement. Just a little bit, wildly inappropriate. Maybe just inappropriate, right? Maybe just that, not the whole wildly inappropriate. For this specific night, we went to a Mexican restaurant, a baseball game, and then a casino. There was drinking involved. I did not gamble, but my coworkers did. So I don't know what it's like to work for tech companies or anything of the sort. It seems like a lot to do just for a business trip. You know what I mean, though? Like, I mean, I might be, like, again, I don't know anything about traveling to do business and stuff like that. And I understand if you're just in a different part of a state or whatever, you probably just want to, chill out, get in the sights or whatever, see what the city or the place that you're going to has to offer. But she could have done that by herself. Not saying that she was going to do anything or that it was inappropriate to begin with, because I mean a business trip by nature in itself isn't a inappropriate thing. All I'm saying is if I get to travel and go to casinos, have baseball games and drink beer and stuff like that for my job, that sounds like a pretty fun job. I'm not going to lie. I only drank what I was comfortable with and felt fine and safe doing, I'm assuming. I would never go out alone with another male coworker, but I thought a group setting was fine. Am I wrong for going out with a group of male coworkers? We have been fighting for 2 days about this. I told him in the future I will not go if I am the only female, but he is also bothered by my alcohol consumption and being out late. I mean, I get it, like why he would be uncomfortable with that, but just communicate with your woman, man. It's not that hard. And I know that there's trust issues and things like that that people have, but I'm just saying if it's something that happens all the time, this was the first time that, she was out with a group of dudes and she was drinking. I mean, just because she was drinking, it doesn't really mean anything. Like, yeah, it'll lower your inhibitions, but it's not like you lose your mind and then it's just like, oh yeah, you three, come in, ride the train. If you know what I mean. And the post continues. The last part is I'm okay with not going out as the only female, even though it sucks because I am in a male dominated industry and don't want to be holed up away in my room each time I travel. But I don't want to feel like a child with a limit of drinks I'm allowed to have and a curfew. Am I wrong here? Nah, man, you're an adult. You should be able to do what you want. He was just saying he was uncomfortable. They talked about it, and it seems like they kind of reached a compromise. You know what I mean? Like yeah, they're gonna have to go and do the business trip stuff regardless. But if she's not the only woman there, which he was the most uncomfortable with, then that's fine. I think having a limit on the drinks and the curfew though is a bit much. I think just a little bit because adults. I mean, like, I don't think that his worries are completely unfounded and unjustified or whatever. I think in most circumstances, with a monogamous relationship, one partner is probably not going to be okay with the other one hanging out with a whole bunch of people of the opposite gender or sex or whatever word. But, like, it'd be one thing if she wasn't answering her phone or text or nothing like that. But it seems like she's pretty open and communicates a lot and just wants to hang out with her coworkers, which isn't a bad thing in general. Me personally, I don't like hanging out with coworkers outside of work anymore. It's too much because then you get your personal life involved with the business life, and it makes it harder for you to like wear a mask basically, when you're at work. When everyone knows who you actually are, it's harder to put on that like, "Oh, I'm normal." But in conclusion, NTA. All right, this one is from the DoorDash deliveries subreddit. Now, I've never visited this subreddit, so I don't know why it started recommending it to me, but this one I thought was pretty interesting. So the title is Craziest Delivery Happened Tonight, and I don't know what to make of it. Pretty good header, I'm not going to lie. It made me read it. It goes, I was dashing in a new area tonight, and when I got an order for a motel just on the outskirts of town. When I pulled up, I found several old school buses labeled agricultural workers and saw maybe 25 plus men and women sitting outside. The hotel was in a desperate need of repair, and from the new rooms, I could see into it looking straight out of the 90s. Anyways, my order was 5 pizzas for a Jose M, with instructions that he'd meet me outside. So I asked a man outside where I could find a Jose M. Clearly not understanding me, I showed him the name on the order, and he pointed to what I could make out as the lobby. I go in and see a man behind the counter. I thought, okay, he owns the place. He tipped well and spoke clear English, but just felt so weird seeing a motel like this. So I delivered the order, drove out of the motel, and quick Google search indicates that this motel where these field workers are staying closed 4 years ago. So they're basically just squatting. The town's a farmhouse, so it makes sense. The motel was rural enough where no one would really make a complaint, but I don't know, it just feels weird. Yeah, man, you might have just like somehow narrowly avoided an abduction right there. Like, I don't know the gender or anything of this dasher, but like, yeah, man. If you're a woman, you would have hella got abducted, man. That sounds like they make DoorDash orders there, and they just wait for the one to show up that they're all gonna like torture and traffic and sell, man. That would definitely make me on edge a little bit coming up to that place. But also, if you go up to a place that's that sketchy and you don't get abducted and trafficked, it's like, bro, was I not pretty enough? But continuing. All right, this next one is, am I the a-hole for keeping the promise I made my kids at the expense of my stepdaughter? Like, I just had to read this because I had to know how, like, first I misread it and I thought it said, am I the a-hole for keeping a promise to my stepdaughter? And I just, like, skipped over the whole thing. And so I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. But then after I reread it, I'm like, oh, I want to read more. I have two children, Sarah and Aiden. 9 years ago, my late husband passed away in a fatal car crash. I was devastated. I was afraid for my kids to grow up without a father, and I was afraid to be alone. Luckily, my family stepped up. My brother-in-law acted as a surrogate father for my kids. My sister and brother-in-law do not have kids of their own, but were happy to help us out. 5 years ago, I met my now husband and his daughter, Elizabeth, at a friend's housewarming party. I was hesitant to date again, but I took things slow, making sure he was a good man to be around my kids. I discussed my kids' feelings with them along every important milestone and made sure they were comfortable with my husband and stepdaughter. When he proposed and I spoke to my kids about how they felt, only one request, the promise, was made. I would make sure that my kids and I would have time together, just the three of us. I agreed to take my children out twice a month, just the three of us, with exceptions if need be. Now that tells me that this person is making a promise to their kids. They just want to be close to their kids and stuff like that. But they are flexible because exceptions. So this person seems pretty level headed, right? Or do they? Well, they probably are, but as my kids remember their father, and Elizabeth's mother was still in her life, we made a rule that neither of us would try to be parents to our stepkids. We are responsible for our biological kids. This was the discussion with the children together. Our kids are also allowed to choose how they feel about one another, whether or not they wish to be a sibling relationship or something else. It's not up for my husband and I to decide. I think that's actually a pretty good way to approach it just because all these stepkids are, 15 and above in this story. You can't make a stepkid have a sibling relationship with another one after, they've pretty much grown up. I mean, obviously 15 isn't grown up, but you're at that age where you could start making decisions for yourself and stuff like that. So I think that that's actually pretty cool because I know that my parents forced me to have a lot of friendships and stuff that I didn't necessarily want. So that's actually pretty mature, pretty cool of these people, if you ask me. Back to the present time. I still regularly take my kids out twice a month for an adventure with the three of us. This could be going out for dinner, a movie, the zoo, etc. I also take Elizabeth with me for some things, such as getting our nails done, shopping, volunteering. Sometimes my kids will come along as well. My husband and I are still responsible for our own kids. We parent them differently, but that's what is causing the problems. Uh-oh, little trouble in paradise. I have to say, though, that's got to be kind of hard in a way, though, when you're, parenting two separate, sets, you know what I'm saying? These parents parent this kid one way, these parents these kids a different way, but they also live in the same household. Requires a hell of a lot of communication. I'm just saying. It's like having two households in the same household. It'd be difficult at times. So I would understand that would cause some friction and frustration between the family. But to continue, she says, we are in charge of grades, party planning, rewards, punishment, special parent-child time, chore lists, curfews/rules. The issue is I am far more active in my kids' lives than my husband is. I regularly celebrate my children, go to all their events, keep on top of their grades. I know where my kids are. I listen to their concerns and speak about their lives. My husband doesn't do those things for my stepdaughter. I think I underestimated how much this is creating tension between our kids. Yeah, that would. It's kind of like, so me and my girlfriend, right? I'm a dog person and she's a cat person. That creates tension regardless because I love my dog. He's a big goofball. He can be a bit much sometimes, He likes to jump and chew on things and stuff like that. But he was also somewhat of a rescue animal. So I cut him a lot of slack, and I've always been good around dogs. I was raised around dogs. Girlfriend, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. They've rescued a bunch of cats. They've had so many cats throughout her childhood. And they had a dog one time, but it was an outside dog. So completely differing views on dogs, her and I, and it does create tension. So, I mean, yeah, it's kind of to be expected, don't you think, it almost seems like, my point with that is that my girlfriend is going to show favoritism towards the cats. Like, she'll get on to me for getting on to the cats, but then when it comes to my dog, she'll get mad at me for not getting on to my dog for certain things. And there's that like personal bias there. And no, everyone's guilty of having bias, right? But sometimes it creates friction between us. It's just that's how it is. But she continues, Elizabeth and Aiden don't interact with one another. Elizabeth and Sarah absolutely despise one another. And Sarah and Aiden are best friends. At least one of the pairs gets along. My husband came to me yesterday and said we needed to talk about Sarah and Aiden, mostly Sarah, treat Elizabeth, or how they treat Elizabeth. He pointed out several instances of exclusionary behavior, such as Sarah driving Aiden around but not Elizabeth. Sarah and Aiden deciding to have two bedrooms across the house from Sarah. Originally, Aiden and Elizabeth would have had them. Sarah spending money buying Aiden gifts but not Elizabeth. Aiden refusing to allow Elizabeth to use his technology. Sarah and Aiden only doing things Elizabeth doesn't enjoy while at home, or stopping Elizabeth when Elizabeth wants to join. Aiden refusing to cook for Elizabeth. Sarah buying all three of them locks for their bedroom doors, which my husband claims was only to make it look like Sarah did something nice for Elizabeth. I mean, these terms and conditions were already kind of set, though. You know, you guys decided to be together, but to run the family as two separate households. So obviously, it's going to create like a team dynamic where you have mom and her kids, dad and her kids, and those are the two teams. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it is. And the fact he can't get mad about it because I mean those are the terms and conditions that he either agreed to or set himself, right? It's kind of ridiculous. My husband claimed that I was the cause of this problem by setting the example of excluding Elizabeth with a promise I made my kids. He demands that I stop the practice and start to treat Elizabeth like my own kid. I said no, as it's not part of our agreement. Elizabeth isn't the one asking me. He isn't willing to step up and act like a father to my kids. And my children come first. I will always make them feel valued. I'm the only one who ever plans anything for my kids since we've bought a house together. He has only planned birthday parties for Elizabeth, nothing else. He doesn't plan family trips, dinners, celebratory events, none of that. I know he wouldn't put any effort for my kids as he barely does his own. When I've brought this up to him in the past, he said it's not my problem and reminds me of our agreement. Oh, and since I didn't add it in, I'm going to speak to both of my kids separately and then together to get to the bottom of their behavior. So am I the a-hole for refusing to break the promise to my kids? No, I think that you should just keep doing what you're doing until you guys get it sorted out, because obviously the tension in the family is getting pretty crazy, right? I mean, you want these guys to get along, so yeah, no, not the a-hole. It just seems like a sticky situation. You guys created teams, and then now that they're playing those teams, it's getting hectic. So, I mean, maybe include her a little bit more, but I mean, it's also not your job if it's out of that agreement that you guys set. You know what I mean? Prime example of I want to have my cake and eat it too. Oh, this agreement sounds really good. This sounds like it won't cause too many issues. But then the moment that it does, I don't want to put any effort into rectifying the situation. That's how the husband's taking it right now. He's doing a little bit of that, well, you need to listen to me, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. It's just a little ridiculous. I can understand him getting protective over his daughter, but you can't expect everyone else to just bend at your whim and will because you got your feelings hurt, you know? So this one was pretty funny and it's nice and short. Am I the a-hole for putting Trump signs on my lawn when my parents leave the house? I don't know why that's so funny to me. I read that and immediately laughed. It says, I have the most conservative parents known to man, and I hate it. They have the most archaic views on everything, and recently wouldn't let me continue seeing my girlfriend because she changed her pronouns to they, them. Bro. They wouldn't allow you to date her because they changed their pronouns. You wouldn't allow them to date them because they changed their pronouns. That's ridiculous. Dude, imagine instead of being worried about the loose girl from around the corner, they're worried about a person going by they, them. Oh, we better watch out. The terrorists are coming for our children. Anyways, it continues. The thing is, we live in a homeowners association community, and everyone here is extremely progressive. As well, both of them have close connections to their jobs in our neighborhood. They put out signs for Democrats even though they vote for the opposite just to make their coworkers and friends think they are on their side. Bro, your parents are fake, bro. Your parents are so fake. And I can't even blame them because this is just, what society does to people. It's like, hey, you got to look and present yourself a certain way so that people don't treat you differently. But there's snakes in the grass, man. Like, jeez. It's like when people get mad about people for cursing. It's like some people just curse, man. My parents grew up cursing all the time, so I curse a lot. I've been getting better at it since, it's a lot harder to edit out every curse word that's in every sentence, and every filler word has something in it. But he says, so I've started switching the signs out to Trump signs to let their true colors show. Am I the a-hole? Nah, man, I don't think you're the a-hole for this. I mean, if your parents, it's like the same thing if someone was like, let's say a closet, I don't know if I can say this word, Nazis. It's like if your parents were those type of people, right? You'd want people to know, wouldn't you? Like don't be a pretend closet racist and then, try to say that you support these progressive people behind closed or out in public and then be a different person behind closed doors. And people should just be who they are. You know what I mean? If you're heavy conservative, just be that and let it show, because then you're not going to get into these situations where you kind of make friends with somebody, then they find out who you really are, and then now you have to find a whole nother friend. Saves everyone a whole bunch of heartache, if you ask me. This is going to be it for this video. Do what other YouTubers tell you to do at the end of their videos. Comment if you want me to visit a specific subreddit, and I'll catch y'all later.